gas sign, and it was showing just the fuel prices have just gone through the roof. And I was, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And when do you think that's going to go down?
Well, I think, families are struggling across the country right now with rising prices across the board. Housing, food, healthcare, childcare, energy costs all going up. And gas prices now, another example of that, because of actions that we've seen taken by the president, most in gas, particularly because of this reckless war that he has started in Iran, a war that has ended up impacting global gas prices and definitely hits our communities. Gas prices are up $1 a gallon, and you add that on with all the other costs of food, housing, healthcare. Families are struggling.
Man,
so we just want to highlight the impact it's having.
It's tight. I appreciate you highlighting it. Diesel, too, is a price that not a lot of people, if you're not in I have a bunch of friends in trucking and in the construction industry, and I was talking with one last night who was saying that the difference in fuel prices for him now, because he owns a fairly good size excavation company that go in and clear big sites for housing developments that are being built.
Yeah.
By the end of this year, he's going to pay an extra $60,000 in fuel costs. And, when you get to the end of the year and you're trying to make the books make sense, sometimes that's all the profit you're looking at in the year. And it's that's a really hard way to look at it. Diesel prices today in Washington State are $6.92 a gallon. Premium, which Spike, you were talking about a little bit ago, gas prices are $5.88.
$5.80, yeah.
Regular, average. Again, these are all averages, which means that some places like Seattle are even higher. But regular gas in Washington State, $5.39 a gallon. Even at Costco, I think I just bought gas 2 days ago.
It's over $5 a gallon
it's
at
like
Costco.
Maybe $5.20 or something at Costco. These prices are they really do feel like they're just tearing people apart. And on the positive side, the Iran war can't last forever. In fact, I was just on CNN's homepage, and their top story right now is this 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon thing that Trump announced, but also they said it looks like there could be an agreement soon with Tehran. So hopefully those prices would come down. And, could you think, that would be welcome news for a lot of people. Don't you agree?
We absolutely need to see prices come down. You talked about your friend and the impact on folks on trucking, on transportation, but absolutely on our farmers. Farmers have been hit hard because of tariffs. Tariffs have raised the cost of fertilizer. In fact, there's also components of fertilizer that come through the Strait of Hormuz as well. And we've seen fertilizer costs spike because of the tariffs on Canada, and then yet again because of the supply chain challenges at the Strait.
Sure.
And then markets close because they've lost opportunities to export. And then you add fuel costs for equipment as for our farmers. It's incredibly hard. And to your point, margins are slim. So when you raise input costs, when you take away markets, you make it harder and harder for our farmers. And we have incredible agricultural community here in Western Washington as well, who's been hit really, really hard.
Let me ask you a question about this. Right now, Washington, so those are the prices. Regular, $5.39, premium, $5.88, diesel, $6.92. And I think all of us are praying this Iran war ends soon and some of these prices can come back down. In Idaho today, gas prices are $4.31 for regular, $4.87 for premium, and diesel's $5.46. It's like $1.50 less per gallon. Why is that?
Well, prices are different depending on where you are across the country. But I can tell you that people are hit hard across the country because of rising costs.
I know across the country, but specifically
across the board.
Specifically between Washington and Idaho.
Food, healthcare, how prices have skyrocketed across the board. Tariffs have caused prices to go up on food everywhere across the country. So when you talk about the impact on families and how people are feeling and what they're struggling with right now, gas prices are one example, and we highlighted that. I've spent a lot of time highlighting stories from folks whose healthcare costs have gone up, premiums skyrocketing.
Energy
all
costs,
of these are the
all
day-to-day
energy, right?
costs that across the board, healthcare, food, childcare costs, housing costs, all across our region, but all across the country.
They're all going up. Let me ask you this question too. A lot of things. Do you spend how much time? I got to be honest. I don't know the schedule of a Congresswoman. How much time are you spending in Washington versus D.C.? Because your primary residence is Washington State. Is that right?
Yes, I come home whenever we're not in session here. So I just flew out here on Monday,
Okay.
and at least hopefully I'll get to go home tomorrow, but I don't know. It depends on what happens here in DC.
I assume
Talk about
you're following. I assume you're
air
following.
travel. I'm on a plane a lot, and this obviously impacts air travel too, and people's ability to move.
We're talking with Susan Del Bene, Representative Susan Del Bene. When you're home in town, have you been seeing the local stories about energy costs that are going up? The prices for energy companies are wanting to raise prices. Have you seen those?
We've seen energy costs across the board. Like I said, go to the grocery store. Just look at how much you pay for groceries right now.
But here's a specific question
People
for
are
you.
impacted across the board.
I don't mean to cut you off. I do have to ask this question specifically. When it comes to the energy costs in Washington State, the reason that they're talking about raising, I think PSC wanted to raise it $51 a month. That's $600 a year for the average family for PSC. And the reason they cited was the extra cost from the CCA, because they have to buy those carbon offsets.
Yeah.
Those same things. Washington State usually has about $1 more expensive gallon than Oregon or Idaho. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I'm fully on board with what you're saying. The costs are so much because of the Iran situation, but when that goes away...
Tariffs too. Tariffs have had a huge impact on costs.
100%.
And we're a trade-dependent state. That's had a disproportionate impact on our state.
Specifically, can you talk about the CCA, though?
So, but let's also talk about the investments we can make to address a huge challenge that we face around the globe, and definitely in our region.
Listen, I'm all for helping people around the globe.
Investments in clean renewable energy. If we want clean renewable energy, which has been a place where Washington State has differentiated itself, we've had a lot of hydro that's been helpful and spurred economic growth in the state of Washington. We've got to address the challenge that we face. Climate is a challenge. The science is clear.
What would you say to the average? What would you say? I understand that, but what would you say to the average person?
But we have to look at the various ways and I can only speak on the federal side in terms of what we do to invest. We saw, for example, investments in hydrogen, a federal hydrogen hub in our region, which was $1 billion for our region. President Trump pulled that away. This is about making sure we're building a strong economy.
I got to be honest, Representative Del Bene, it feels like you're not answering the question. I understand all those conversations. But the CCA, specifically the CCA. And the reason I'm pushing on it, Spike, the reason I'm pushing on it is because that cost crosses everything. Energy, like we just talked about. Pain at the pump, like we just talked about. And the Department of Ecology, you are a Washington resident, you know this because you live here. The Department of Ecology is required by law to show us that these investments, as you say, that we're making are actually having a positive effect. And they are not showing those numbers. So my question is, if you can't justify the program because you're not willing to show us the information that's actually doing some good, how can you keep asking people who are the poorest among us to pay these very regressive prices when it comes to gas, which you have to use to get to work, to energy costs? What do you say to those people? Just like standing in front of the gas sign and talking about the Iran war, which I applaud you for. What do you say to those people who are frustrated with the CCA saying, listen, I love the environment, I want a clean earth as much as possible, but right now I can't afford this?
I want to say, let's make investments that help lower costs across the board, that make sure we have strong economic opportunity going forward. On the federal side, and that's what as a federal representative, I want to be clear about the policies that we've been trying to put in place to help address that, to help build a clean, renewable energy future, to help support the innovation, and to help lower costs. That means making sure that we are making strong investments like we saw in the hydrogen hub that I strongly supported. That was public sector dollars with private sector dollars to spur innovation. We have great investments in things like fusion and making sure that we have wind and solar and a diverse energy portfolio. That's been a strength that we've had in our region. Those investments help us make sure that these technologies not only can come, but also can help lower costs. Right now, the reason we see such a strong spike and impact on our communities is because we also have such a strong dependence on fossil fuels. Let's make sure we're being competitive, we're being innovative, and we diversify in our region. At the federal level, we've made some of those investments. Unfortunately, we've seen this administration take them away. The state is also making investments and making decisions to help move to a clean, renewable future, and they have policies that they put in place
at a great cost. At a great cost to the consumer. At a great cost to the consumer.
And number one thing that we need to focus on across the board is how we lower costs for folks And one way we do that is making sure we're investing in our families, in our communities. Unfortunately, what we've seen in DC, people were promised lower costs. We've seen policies here, and the president as well promised to lower costs on day one. It's a broken promise. Tariffs, gutting healthcare, premiums skyrocketing, all raising prices on families. We need to make sure, and a war that is raising prices and costing billions of dollars. We need to be investing in our communities.
Well, when that war ends, I would love to see Washington gas prices parity other states in the region. I think that would be nice for Washington consumers because everybody's being choked out here. But Susan Delbene, thank you so much, Representative, for coming on with us. We look forward to talking with you again. We'd love to do it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a great one. Bye-bye.